But I do feel as though he is the man for you. Patience is certainly required, but I know there's always that expectation from Spurs fans. And when it goes slightly wobbly, then of course there's more pressure, and that's going to take its toll on Ange as well. So I'm hoping that you stick with him. Hi Spurs fans, thanks for having me. My name's Sam, I'm from Back in the Net, an AFC Bournemouth podcast and YouTube channel, going home and away every week to document the joys, the trials and the tribulations of covering the Cherries. It's mainly joys this season. I mean, last season it was as well, and it was a record-breaking season. Iraola's first in the Premier League, his first for Bournemouth, and we beat our Premier League points record by 2. I think our previous under Eddie was 9th place with 46 points. 46 points would never get you 9th these days, but we finished on 48. And that was a Iraola side that was having to learn a new style of football, because he effectively was picking up the pieces after Gary O'Neill's era. Not that Gary O'Neill did a bad thing, of course. He kept us up, but we had a pragmatic, purposeful way of playing, and he needed to change that. And for the first 8-9 games in his first season, we weren't sure whether that was going to happen, but it finally clicked, and then it happened for him. And some of the football that we've been playing since then has been sublime. So this is his first season, really, where players know what he wants to deploy, and we've deployed it well. And there have been some statement wins this season, something that maybe we lacked last season. Yes, you could point to beating Manchester United 3-0 on their own turf, but really, Manchester United at the time, absolutely dreadful. But wins home against Arsenal, which I know you'll appreciate. Also Manchester City as well, in the middle of that, getting a point on the road against Villa, which it felt like a win given that we scored very late. But the problem with us at the moment is probably consistency, or lack of it, maybe, because in amongst those brilliant wins, before it a loss against Leicester, after it a loss at Brentford, and then a loss at home against Brighton more recently. But we have managed to get a win on the road, as you'll have seen, 4-2 against Wolves, only our second win of the season. That was fully deserved. Our first against Everton, you may remember, was where we were 2-0 down with 86 minutes on the clock, and in a mad, chaotic last 10, we managed to win 3-2. And that's what his football style is. It is front foot, it's fast paced, it's free flowing, it's chaotic, overlapping wing backs, underlapping wing backs, sometimes transitioning fast, sometimes just a long hoof forward, as can be seen from the first penalty that we won at Molineux at the weekend. And there are stats going around about us winning the ball back more than any other side in our final third, or the team's first third, and then getting a shot away as well. So our high press at the moment is looking really good. And that's why I think the game against Spurs is going to be really entertaining. It's not an ideal kickoff time, especially for the Spurs fans travelling back. Hopefully you can make the last train. That's Sky, TNT and Amazon for you. But either way, I think the neutrals that will be watching on the box around the world will be watching a really good game of football. Two teams going hammer and tong. And I think a home advantage, it might even shade it for us, because I know you're looking a little bit wobbly at the moment. Your last game, you really should have done better with that one, playing against 10 men for the last part of the game. It must be frustrating. But look, let's flick back to us. What are our realistic aims for this season? I mean, I want to say Europe. Will we get it? Probably not. I think consistency or lack of puts paid to that somewhat. But if we manage to maybe complement the squad a little bit in January, certainly in the close season next season, so long as we don't lose any stars, which might well happen, then you never know. It could happen. Our owner said that he wants European football within 5 years. If we follow the Brighton blueprint, which I think most clubs try to do these days, you never know, we've got a chance. But there are some key players that we need to keep hold of for that. The reality is, though, they're going to move on. Bournemouth are a stepping stone club. We know that. And unfortunately, our success under Andoni Iraola means that is only going to become more prevalent, which puts more pressure on the recruitment to get it right and get the new acquisitions through the door that are ready to hit the ground running. Largely, we've got most of the signings right recently, which has been superb. Now, and Postecoglou and Spurs, I sort of want to talk about them because I sort of admire the way he came into the Spurs job and got the fans on side very quickly with his very kind of straight talking way. And some of the football that you were playing early doors was fantastic. I remember you sort of leading the Premier League for quite a few match weeks before it all sort of unravelled. But I do feel as though he's the man to take you to where you want to be. But I think some of the players on the pitch and have been letting you down on occasions. I'm not saying every decision that he's made has been right, but it's something that sort of galvanised almost better last season than it did this season. But I do feel as though he is the man for you. Patience is certainly required, but I know there's always that expectation from Spurs fans. And when it goes slightly wobbly, then of course there's more pressure, and that's going to take its toll on Ange as well. So I'm hoping that you stick with him. Now, games against Spurs from a Bournemouth perspective, they're always classic. If I'm going to name a favourite, I think most Spurs fans will probably know. No, it wasn't the 1-0 where Nathan Ake scored in the last minute when we were playing against 9 men. It wasn't that one. It was the one under Gary O'Neill, the 3-2 win. One that was pivotal in us staying up. I think Dan Juma equalised to make it 2-2, our ex-player, of course. And then I think most of us were okay with a point, only for Dango Ouattara to pop up late on, assisted by Dom Solanke, who you know quite well by now, and absolutely scenes in the away end at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So, which players do we fear this time round? Well, look, I'm gonna compliment our own, so to speak, and Dom Solanke. And I think you've probably seen that his goals have not been as prevalent as you would want them to be. You get a special type of joy, don't you, when a player that you've only just recently signed hits the ground running and scores goals. But I think you'll have quickly seen that his game is more than that for Spurs, and his work rate's really good. His link-up play's excellent. He's diligent on the ball. He's not rapid, but he's got explosive pace that just enables him to sometimes nip in and get a touch on goal and in the back of the net, like he's done a number of times this season for you. But then look, there are stars littered throughout the Spurs side. Of course, Son, of course, Maddison as well when he's on form. It's, you know, there are a lot to look out for. For us, Bournemouth players that we should look out, that you should look out for, I'm going to be obvious and say Antoine Semenyo. He was out for the last game because he picked up too many bookings over the course of the season. So he missed the match against Wolves, and we were sort of wondering, is that going to affect our attacking impetus? It didn't. But then look, I can mention Justin Kluivert as well. I think Evan Ilson, the first player to win 3 penalties in a Premier League football match. And then, of course, as I said, Justin Kluivert, first player to notch a hattie of penalties as well. But I'm going to do a shout out for Ryan Christie, who will likely play either in the number 10 position or as the double pivot, playing just in front of the defence. But if Tyler Adams is his partner, it means he can be more expansive. And his role in the win at Wolves, well, it was absolutely phenomenal. We really missed him when he was out against Brighton. Thankfully, he's come back in and done well. Kirkes is also a shout on the left-hand side as well. So it's going to be an end-to-end game, plenty of basketball action. I think it's going to be high scoring as well. We're looking forward to seeing Dom again. I think he's going to get a great reception. We've got our own song for him, which I think you've adapted to mention Mikel Arteta by the sounds of it, but really good player for us. And almost single-handedly got us re-promoted back to the Premier League, really. I mean, scoring, 30 goals in all competitions in the second Championship season, and then doing well in his first season back. But then last season, he was just absolutely brilliant for us. And I got aggrieved that Gareth Southgate just overlooked him for an England berth. I know I can see why he went for Ivan Toney and stuff, but what he can offer is brilliant. And I'm just glad now that he's at a big side, he's getting noticed. And look, we've got many stars like that, like Lewis Cook. If he plays for Bournemouth, I feel for him because he won't get in the England side. If he played for anyone else, he would be straight in there. So, Harum Scarum game. I'm going to predict the score right now, by the way. And it's going to be, I think home advantage could count. Because you're having a bit of a wobble. Bournemouth, I think, are fairly buoyant again. And with Semenyo back, that's a big threat for us. I think 3-2 is what I'm going to go for score-wise. How that will affect the season as a whole, I think Spurs, I mean, the aim has got to be Europe for sure. I think they should really be aiming for sort of Champions League, but I just don't know with the way it's panning out. I think Liverpool have got it sewn up already. And after that, it's a bit of a free-for-all. It's one of the closest Premier Leagues we've had for a long time. It's really exciting, actually. It is quite an exciting one for probably everyone apart from those who actually want to win the league. But I think a fourth place could be achieved by Spurs this season. And I think that's what you probably should be going for. For us, I would just love a top 10 finish. Europe would be great. Of course it would. But I think a top 10 finish and just more points on the board, more than 48. And I think most Bournemouth fans would be happy. You just wonder when players move on, would we then look back in the future and say, that was the time that we missed our chance. And then we'll look back at games like Leicester where we should have won, Newcastle United earlier in the season where VAR decided to chalk out a perfectly reasonable goal. That would have been an extra 2 points. Brentford away. We're looking back at games like that. So look, more consistency as the season progresses for us. And you never know. It can be a dream for us. And look, the longer the season goes on and the longer we've got that dream, the better our season is, right? So we're happy with that. In terms of the predicted lineup for Bournemouth, with Semenyo coming back, that throws a spanner into the works slightly. And Tyler Adams, who doesn't usually play, might be starting as well, which means our midfield sort of three of Christie, Cook, Adams, one of them probably won't get picked, I'm assuming. In goal, I think we'll have Kepa, right back, Adam Smith, central defenders likely to be Ilya Zabani, highly rated Football Manager wonder boy, and Marcus Senesi. Milos Kerkez as well, great goal against Wolves, playing on the left side. In front of that, I'm going to go for Adams and Cook. And then in the number 10 position, I think Ryan Christie will play. That means it will be probably Cliver and Semenyo. That means Tavernier will probably miss out and go onto the bench. Cliver playing on the wing this time rather than in the number 10. And up front, Evan Nilsson, who's done absolutely superb for us. So yeah, should be a good game and really, really looking forward to it. I just want to say thank you so much for listening to me drone on. But if you want to do me a massive favour, it would be to go over to Back of the Net. We'll have lots of different opinions and views from inside the ground, from outside the ground. And look, Spurs fans might find it quite interesting to see at full time, especially if you win. Maybe not so much if you don't. But up the cherries. And I won't say come on you Spurs, but thanks for having me on. All the best.